Where could one find a more enjoyable sight, whether viewed with the eye of a naturalist or a lover of the picturesque? Before me is the reedy swamp with its open patches of water glittering like mirrors in the bright sunlight, rippled in all directions by busy beavers, some making a hasty retreat to their castles, others swimming craftily along, crawl on to the domes and peep at the intruder. Dozing on the sandbanks round the margin of the pools, or paddling with oary feet on the smooth water are numbers of snowy pelicans, the bright orange encircling the eyes and coloring the pouch, legs, and feet, looks like a flame. Contrasted with the white feathers, so intensified is the color of the brilliancy of the sun rays, pintails, shovelers, stock ducks, the exquisitely colored cinnamon teal, the noisy bald pate, and a host of others are either floating on the heads or circling round in pairs, quacking angry remonstrances at such an unjustifiable prying into their nuptial haunts. Overhead, vying with the swallows in rapidity and grace of flight, countless terns whirl in many circles, their back heads gray and white liveries, orange-yellow beaks show to great advantage against the somber green of the swallows, amid which they wing their way. Behind me and far to the right, the Siskiyou Mountains, in many a rugged peak, bound the skyline, their slopes descending in an unbroken surface of pine trees to the grassy flats at their base. To my left, the river that feeds this rushy lake winds through the green expanse like a line of twisted silver, as far as the eye can scan its course. Along its bank, my string of mules in a dingy file pace slowly on. The tinkle of the bell horse, but faintly audible, bids me hasten after them, and leave a scene like the of which I have never perhaps gazed on again. I did not see any nests of the tern, although I have but little doubt they breed about these lakes. Follow the stream and pass a second kind of rushy lake, not nearly so large as the one behind, and reach the southern end of the great Kalmath Lake, out of which pours a rapid stream 200 yards in width and very deep. Camp on its edge and set to work to discover some means of crossing. The smoke of my campfire has barely reached above the trees when Indians are seen coming from all directions, some on horseback, others on foot. And canoes and fleet stop the lake that stretches away until lost in the distance. Like a freshwater ocean, I feel very uneasy. The two Iskios have gone, vanished mysteriously, hastily collect dry wood and light a circle of fires, within which I enclose my mules. I am mugged by who are evidently doubtful whether to be friends or foes. By aid of my guide, I managed to bargain for 2 canoes. May 20th, and ever laid down all night. Kept the packers guarding my mules, stationing a man between each of the fires of the Indians in full force at sunup. In 2 hours cross all my stores in the canoes, swim the mules, and without any incident, we are safely across the river. This tribe, the Kalamath Indians, the chief of whom, the lake, is a man of considerable influence, number about 2,000, and own large herds of horse and cattle. They are nearly always at war and are the terror of immigrants. The men are well grown and muscular. They wear little more than breechcloth, and most of them still use the bow and arrow. The squaws are short in comparison with the men, and for Indians have tolerably regular features. Men use no saddles, and a strange sight it is to see a number of these Indians nearly naked, painted from their heads to their waists, all colors and patterns, skying and whirling around upon their half-tamed beasts, yelling and shouting with no apparent object that I could discover but that of exhibiting themselves and trying to frighten me. The morning is dark and cloudy with a sharp, keen wind. Keep close to the shores of the lake, which for the first 15 miles is shut in by dangerous mountains. The trail winds along the side of this mountain in some places over bare rock, at some others loose rolling stones render it dangerous and difficult to get over. Emerging on an open sandy plain about 7 miles in width, we cross it still close to the lake, then hill again, but not so steep, reaching an open prairie covered with grass, camp on small stream with decent wood on its bank. During the whole day I was beset and worried by Indians riding along my mule, galloping forward and then back again from one end of the train to the other in a most excited state. Immediately on camping I am tired, again thronged, so ride on to see the chief at his lodge, about 4 miles from camp, having at first enclosed my mules in a ring of fires, and desired my men, in case I do not return in 2 hours, to abandon the mules and escape as best they can. I find the chief's lodge in the center of a very extensive Indian village, situated on the bank of a swift stream. All the lodges are dome-shaped like beaver houses. An arched roof covers a deep pit sunk into the ground, the entrance to which is a round hole, though I descend into the sable dignitary's presence. His lodge differing from the others only in being rather larger and having more dogs than children round it. Face to face I stand alone with the dreaded chief, more like bearding a hog in its sty than the forest monarch of the Scottish Douglas in his stronghold. On a few skin squats, a flabby red-eyed, begrimed his regal robe, a ragged blanket tied round his waist, soft and sensualist are allegedly written on his face. Greed, cruelty, and cunning visibly in every twist of his mouth and twinkle of his pig-like eyes. My heart misgives me when I think of my men. The government property and my own life are entirely in the hands of this degraded beast. Addressing him in Chinook, which he fortunately understood, I explained that my mission was, asked him what he meant by sending armed braves in full war paint without any squaws amongst my mules and men, and that I was a King George's chief, and what was more, that another and much greater chief was awaiting my arrival on the banks of the Columbia. If I failed to come when so many suns and set over the hills, he would seek me, and if harm had befallen me, would surely burn up all the lodges and drive off the horses, kill the braves, and perhaps hang the chief. Handing me the all-potent pipe, he replied, "I am your brother. My heart is good. My people are assembling for a war trail. I mean you no harm. Give me 2 bags of flour to pay me for the grass your mules eat." This I consent to, bolt through the hole like a fox, and gallop with all speed back to my camp. Not one word of all this do I believe, but take additional precautions to guard my mules, and quietly await the tide of events. About dusk, the chief arrives in full war paint, which consists of alternate stripes of vermilion and white arranged in all sorts of directions, and extending from his waist to his hair. We smoke together, the pipe passing round the circle of braves that might have been more justly styled ragged ruffians if they had worn clothes, the chief's bodyguard. The chief, of course, wanted everything he saw as a present, but this, at all hazards, I sternly refused, finding nothing more than was to be attained by mere fair means. On receiving the promised payment, he left for the village. The lake near which I encamped in a magnificent sheet of water, 40 miles in length with an average breadth of 15, shut in by steep hills, not heavily timbered, between which are fine open grassy valleys. Windfowl and swarms dot its surface, and it abounds with fish, so the Indians tell me. May 21st. Another sleepless night, morning dark, a cold icy wind nearly froze one's blood. Start as soon as we can see. The chief tells me I can ford the stream near his lodge, but, doubtful of its truth, canter on ahead of the mules and try it. Just as I thought, deep water, a ruse to get my mule swimming, and when scattered to pounce upon and steal them. Ride back towards my train, puzzled what course to pursue. An Indian gallops from amidst the trees, chasing two horses with a lasso, catches one and proceeds rapidly downstream. I follow quietly, about a half mile, then he rides into the river, and without wetting his horse's sides, gets on the other side.